Let us learn about the different modifications of root, children. So along with the functions like absorption, then the other process of the root, like functions of root like anchorage and other things, a few roots in some plants, they also modify themselves to carry out other functions. So the functions which the roots carry out are support, storage of food, then respiration and support also. Let us see what is the first one, which is the support storage of food, which means that food is stored in the root portion. In some plants, their roots are modified to store food. Okay, so they get the capacity to store extra food in their root portion. And then comes the respiration. So this respiration process is a process through which the oxygen is taken in and cellular respiration happens, right? So for that, oxygen is taken through some modified roots in some plants. Not all the plants have this modified route to carry out respiration. Few plants have this method through which they can take in oxygen. That is, they have modified route through which they can take in oxygen. And then comes the third one, which is the support. So plants themselves, their whole structure is being supported with the help of few modified roots. So roots get modified to support a plant. Okay, so this is about the modifications of the root. Okay, so one by one we will learn each of this in detail. So if you take the first one, that is support storage of food, so we can say it as storage. So few roots are modified to store the food, right? So we will be learning about the storage and taproot plants and also in the adventitious root plants. Okay, so first if you take the case of these taproot plants, we are able to find that they are storing their food with the help of the swollen roots. Swollen means വീങ്ങിയ പോലെയുള്ള റൂട്ടിലേക്ക് കൂടിയാണ് അവർ ഫുഡിനെ സ്റ്റോർ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. Okay, so they become swollen. The taproot, that is the primary root, becomes swollen and they store food in that primary root. Okay, and based on their structure, that is how the storage is happening, or how the storage of the food happens, and what is the structure of these roots. So based on that, they are categorized into three types. See, they are storing their food in the root portion and it becomes swollen, so it forms the swollen root, and these swollen roots are not similar in all the plants, so it differs from one plant to another. So based on the structure of this storage root, our storage root എന്ത് ഷേപ്പും സ്ട്രക്ചറിലാണോ ഉള്ളത് അത് ബേസ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് they are again categorized into three. So one is conical, which is the example is carrot. So in conical part, as the name says, it will be conical, somewhat conical in shape. So if you take the example of carrot, you can see it has a broad base. അതിൻ്റെ ബേസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് broad ആയിരിക്കും, and their ends will become taper, or their apex portion will become taper. It means that it will be reduced in size. In the upper portion, the base portion will be broader, and the end portion or the apex portion or the tip portion of the root will be taper. Okay, it is not broader, it is taper. അപ്പോൾ അതിൻ്റെ സൈസ് കുറഞ്ഞു വരുന്നുണ്ടെന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്. You would have seen carrots, right? So one portion of their root will be broad and the other portion will be little taper than the broader portion. Okay, and then comes the next one, which is the fusiform. So this is the structure which is seen in radish. So if you take the case of radish, they will have middle portion. So somewhat it is like carrot, but it is whitish in color, and you would have seen radish, I hope so. Whitish in color lana undava. The middle portion of the radish will be swollen. Their middle portion will be swollen, but both the ends will become taper. Okay, in carrot we saw that their base portion will be broad and their end portion will become taper. Okay, their size is reducing. But here in the case of fusiform structure, radish is the example. So in radish we see that the middle portion is broad and both the ends are taper. That is, this end and this end both are taper. Taper എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അതിൻ്റെ സൈസ് കുറവായിരിക്കും. Okay, and then comes the next part, which is the napiform. So napiform, it is seen in root of the turnip. Okay, this is a turnip plant. So this turnip, it has a spherical body in the upper portion. That is our root in the upper portion, it will be spherical, and towards the end they become taper. So you can see it, this is spherical, and towards the end portion it is becoming taper. Okay, so this is how the structure of roots in case of taproot. So taproots nu parayunnathu, they store their extra food at the swollen root, and these swollen roots have different structures in different plants. That is what we learned now. It is conical in carrot, it is fusiform in radish, and it is napiform in turnip. Okay, now let us move on to the next root, that is the adventitious root. I hope you remember what is taproot, right? So taproot is a main root which arises directly due to elongation of radicle, and it has many secondary and tertiary roots. And what are adventitious roots? These are roots which arise from other parts of the plant, like it does not arise from the radicle, but it arises from other parts of the plant. Okay, so now let us see how the adventitious roots are helping in storage of food. Okay, so these adventitious roots also, they are again they are swollen like the taproot, and they store their food. So they are also swollen roots which store their food. So they also form swollen root, and they store their food. And based on the structure, again based on the structure in different plants, they are categorized into three. First one is the tuberous. The second one is the nodulose, and then comes the fasciculated. Okay, so these are the different structures which they form with the swollen root. See, usually they, like taproot, they also store their food in the swollen root. Veiny rootilana avare food in store in, and their structure, as like we saw in taproot, they are all not same in appearance, so they differ in their structure. So they are categorized based on their structure into tuberous, nodulose, and fasciculated. And if you take the case of this tuberous, we see this in sweet potato. So they are swollen portion, and they don't have a definite shape. So you can see it here. This is the picture of the sweet potato. So they are swollen, but they don't have a definite shape. So each one will have different shape. Okay, so that is called as tuberous. Okay, then comes the nodulose. Nodulose example is turmeric. In turmeric, we are able to find a slender stem. Slender root with swollen apex. It means that we know that it has a rhizome which is used, which is an underground stem. Appa turmeric nu parayunna nammal edukkunnathu adu underground stem aanu, and below that you will be able to find many hair like structures growing. So these are all roots of the turmeric. And if you see the end portion or the apex portion of this turmeric's root, you are able to find few nodulous structure. Nodulous nu parna ചെറിയ rounded structures ആയിരിക്കും നമുക്ക് കാണാൻ പറ്റുക. So it is nothing but it is the food which is stored in the root portion of the nodules. ഈ nodules എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സ്ട്രക്ചറിലാണ് അവരെ ഫുഡ്, അവർ എക്സസ് ഫുഡിനെ സ്റ്റോർ ചെയ്ത് വെക്കുന്നത്. Okay, and this is about turmeric, which is the nodulose, which has a structure of nodulose. And then comes the next one, which is the fasciculated structure. So fasciculated, it is seen in dahlia, and all the roots will arise from one point in dahlia, and they are swollen. Okay, so they form cluster of tubercles at the stem. So at the base of the stem, they will form cluster of tubercles. Tubercles nu parayunnathu veeny oru portion aanu, adu definite shape illa. So all these structures will arise from one point, that is at the base of the stem. Base of the stem, it arises as clusters of tubercles. Okay, so I will show you the picture of this, so it will be easy for you to understand. This is how the turmeric nodules is children. So this is the turmeric portion, which is underground stem, and then we have a slender root portion in the turmeric, and at the end of these root portions, at the apex of the root portions, we are able to find few swollen structures which are called as the nodulose. Okay, so it is nothing but it is nodules which are seen at the apex of the root portion. they help in storing food in case of turmeric. And this is the example of dahlia plant. You can see from the base of the stem many tuberoses are arising. So these tuberous structures are arising from the base of stem, that is, it arises as the cluster from the base of stem. Example is dahlia. Okay, clear with the children? Now let us move on to the next part. We saw how storage of food happens in the case of the modified roots, and now we are going to learn how it provides support. So we saw 3 points, right? Storage of food, then respiration, then support. Now we are going to see about the third point, which is the support. So support here means it provides additional support to the main root. Main root in additional aayittulla support aanu kodukkunnathu, and it provides mechanical support. So it provides additional mechanical support which helps the plant to provide or to be there in proper shape. Proper ആയിട്ട് അവർക്ക് ജീവിച്ച് പോവാൻ അവർക്ക് സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന സ്ട്രക്ചേഴ്സ് ആണ്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അവർക്ക് സർവൈവ് ചെയ്യാൻ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന സ്ട്രക്ചേഴ്സ് ആണ്. വി ആർ കോളിംഗ് ഇറ്റ് ആസ് support. Okay, so here there are different types of roots. The first one is the prop roots. What is it called? Prop roots, which we see in the banyan tree. So these are structures which originate from the aerial branches. It means that aerial nu parnja kaatil. We know that the shoot system is seen in the aerial region, right? So from this aerial structures, avaru porthulla structures nanu ee root like structures arise avunathu. Okay, so these roots will arise from aerial branches. You can see the branches. From these branches are the supporting structures or supporting roots arising. So such roots are called as prop roots. So these roots are prop roots. And we know that banyan is a very big tree. So with just its root alone, it can't withstand heavy wind and all those things. For that, the other parts of their body, that is the branch portion, will help them by producing prop roots. Okay, so these prop roots, they will grow downwards and they get fixed to the soil, so that they become a support for the so for these big branches, the root alone, the main root alone will not support them to withstand this, to carry these heavy branches along with the main root. They have few prop roots arising from the branches which will hold the structures. appo the root na pole thanne aa bhagathane taangi nikkan adu sahayikkum. Okay, example, we see this in banyan tree, right? So now let us see the next root which is modified to provide support. So the next one is the stilt roots. You can see it here. So this is the stilt roots. So we will see how the stilt roots are formed and how they support it. So the stilt roots, it arises from the lower nodes of the stem. Okay, so these are supporting roots which arise from the lower nodes of the stem. Stem in the ഏറ്റവും താഴ്ഭാഗത്തുനിന്നാണ് ഈ സ്ട്രക്ചേഴ്സ് അറൈസ് ചെയ്യുക. യു ക്യാൻ സീ ഇറ്റ് ഹിയർ. സോ യു ഹാവ് സീ യു ആർ ഏബിൾ ടു ഫൈൻഡ് മെനി റൂട്ട് ലൈക്ക് സ്ട്രക്ചേഴ്സ് കമ്മിങ് ഔട്ട് ഫ്രം ദ ലോവർ നോഡ്സ് ഓഫ് ദ സ്റ്റെം. സ്റ്റെമ്മിൻ്റെ ഏറ്റവും ലോവർ പോർഷനിൽ വി ആർ ഏബിൾ ടു ഫൈൻഡ് റൂട്ട് ലൈക്ക് സ്ട്രക്ചേഴ്സ് കമ്മിങ് ഔട്ട്. ആൻഡ് എക്സാമ്പിൾ ഓഫ് പ്ലാന്റ്സ് വിച്ച് ഹാവ് ദിസ് stilt root is the maize and sugarcane. You can see it here. This is very clear, I hope so. So root portion will be seen inside the soil, but there are few roots which arises from the that is lower nodes of the stem in case of maize and sugarcane, and these roots are called as stilt roots. Okay, and now coming to the next root, which is called as the climbing roots. That is not shown here, but you should know about it, which is the climbing root. So this climbing roots, they will originate from nodes or internodes. We will learn what are nodes or internodes, but these are structures, these are root structures which arises from the nodes and internodes. Example is beetle. So you would have seen few few plants which are growing on other big trees. They get attached to that big tree. നമ്മൾ വേണ്ടാത്ത ആ പ്ലാന്റിനെ നശിപ്പിക്കുന്ന വള്ളികൾ പടർന്ന് വളരുന്നില്ലേ. സോ ദേ ഗെറ്റ് അറ്റാച്ച്ഡ് ടു ദാറ്റ് coconut plant very strongly. So they do this by forming roots in the nodes and internodes. Okay, അവരെ നോഡ്സിലും ഇന്റർനോഡ്സിലും റൂട്ട്സ് ഫോം ചെയ്താണ് ആ മെയിൻ പ്ലാന്റിന്റെ ശരീരത്തിൽ പിടിച്ചു നിൽക്കുന്നത്. എക്സാമ്പിൾ ഇസ് ബീറ്റിൽ പ്ലാന്റ്. Okay, now let us move on to the next part. I will just show the picture of this beetle. So you can see this, children, you can see many roots arising from their nodes and the internode portion. So nodes are nothing but the points where the leaves arise. Okay, and in between the space which we see is called as the internode. So here it is not shown, but in the internodes portion also we will see the origination of the root. Okay, so it originates from nodes or the internodes portion. Okay, so this is about the adventitious roots. Now let us move on to the next part, that is next function, which is called as the respiration. Okay, so these adventitious roots here will provide support to the plant. Okay,